Hello friends, welcome back to Hyper Games. My name is Joseph and we have a numbers heavy episode as Sony aims to improve PS5 stock, Venom actor teasing mocap work, Gotham Knights ditching PS4, my name is Mayo returning likely with an easy plat, and more. Let's get into the PlayStation news. Sony has announced the results for the last quarter of its 2022 fiscal year ending March 31st, 2022. PS5 was short of its target by 3.3 million units due to the components shortage and only moved 2 million consoles. They were looking to ship 14.8 million for the financial year but ended up selling 11.5 million units. However, they are now aiming to increase that for the fiscal year to 18 million, so if you don't have a PS5 there's a chance you could get one this year. Despite not being able to fulfill the high demand, the now current gen console sits at 19.3 million units shipped to date, which in comparison to PS4 puts it behind by 3.1 million. The last gen console had sold 22.4 million at this point in its life. They also updated lifetime PS4 sales, which are now at 117 million units. The good news was on the software front, as they sold 14.5 million games in the last quarter including PS4 and PS5, and that was up by 84% from 7.9 million last year. We stick with Sony's results, but now for its services, mainly PlayStation Plus, as paid subscribers are down by 0.6 million compared to the previous quarter and 0.2 million year over year, with a total of 47.4 million users. Active users playing games or using services on PSN were also down by 5 million compared to the previous quarter and 3 million year on year. According to CFO Hiroki Totoki, the decline is part of the overall trend given the stay-at-home demand is less compared to the period of January to February 2021. And he's probably right, with people going for more activities outside now, like movies for example, despite various waves going up and down. Totoki continues by saying that the stay-at-home demand was a temporary factor, but after it subsided it seems that the high levels of engagement have been maintained. He doesn't see the decline as something to worry in a mid-term basis and points out at the changes that will be rolling out to PlayStation Plus in the next month, merging with PlayStation Now. Nonetheless, he emphasized the new service won't see AAA games on day one. He said, "I will refrain from making comments on the competitor strategy," referring to Microsoft and Game Pass. "Our current thinking is to have development cost and appropriate R&D investment for quality products, and that will improve the platform and also improve the business in the long run. AAA type titles on PS5, if we distribute that on the subscription service, we may need to shrink investment needed for that, and that will deteriorate the first party title quality, and that is our concern. So we want to make sure we spend the appropriate development cost to have solid products, titles be introduced in the right manner." I believe that way of thinking is partially true. While Microsoft has done a great job with Game Pass, it has required a huge investment on their side. And just like other services like Netflix, it could reach a ceiling where the cost is translated into the subscription price. In previous videos I've mentioned Sony may not need AAA games day one on the service, but they could approach more indies to have them day one, or third parties after 6 months, and a faster rotation, something that PlayStation Now wasn't doing. The last part of this report is in regard to their investments, as Sony announced they will be further supporting their current first-party studios with 308 million outside of future acquisitions. This is for developing more single-player games like the upcoming God of War Ragnarok or Insomniac's future projects like Spider-Man 2 or Wolverine. In case you don't know, the average cost of a AAA game like those is around 60 to 8 million and continues to rise with the years. They also said they expect future game projects to ship on multiple platforms, which likely means PS4, PS5, and their expanded PC strategy. So any concerns about them not caring about single player content with their interest in games as a service can be put to rest for the time being. Speaking of games as a service, Sony is expecting the purchase of Bungie will complete by December 31st, 2022, even with the FTC holding an aggressive investigation. The announcement was part of their projected game and network services sales forecast for fiscal year 22, which is expected to be at 3.6 billion yen. Moving on, over at the PlayStation blog, Sony announced the top 10 most downloaded games for the month of April. It was dominated by LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, MLB The Show 22, and Elden Ring across the US and Europe. First-party games like Gran Turismo 7 and Spider-Man Miles Morales also made the cut, with Horizon Forbidden West falling 2 steps out of the top 10 in the US and 4 in Europe. And Capcom also announced its financial results for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2022, with sales up 15.5% and expecting further growth for the next year with an 8% increase forecast. Resident Evil Village has now shipped over 6.1 million units, with other games like Monster Hunter World and Resident Evil 7 also piling up for their great results. Capcom's upcoming game schedule for PlayStation platforms include the Capcom Fighting Collection, free PS5 upgrades for Resident Evil 2, 3 and 7, Resident Evil Village DLC, and probably the return of RE-Verse, plus further ahead there's Exoprimal and Pragmata. Beyond that, they have games like Street Fighter 6, platforms unconfirmed so far but very likely to include PlayStation, and there's the long-rumored Resident Evil 4 remake. Elden Ring's popularity continues to skyrocket as Bandai Namco announced its result for the fiscal year. Did I say this was a very number-heavy episode? From Software Magnum Opus is now sitting at 13.4 million copies sold, a massive achievement responsible for almost half of the Soul series' total units sold, currently at more than 27 million. Bandai Namco's total revenue for the fiscal year was 6.83 billion, a 20% increase over the previous year. Development on the next PlayStation console may already be underway, with AMD looking to hire a system-on-chip verification engineer to be a part of the team behind the chip powering Xbox, PlayStation, and the latest RDNA family of graphics. I think this is far from surprising. PlayStation architect Mark Cerny has said in the past their work is not done after launching a console. They start looking into cost-effective parts for the current one and into the next console, even if it's a mid-refresh like the PS4 Pro. And if they are partnering with AMD again, there's a chance this position would cross paths with Sony in the future. Sony has released a new firmware update for PS3 and PS Vita 4.89 and 3.74 respectively. Both now disable PSN account creation from the console and make two-factor authentication a requirement for account protection. To create an account or set up your two-factor authentication, you will have to visit the SIE website, and any PS Vita code redemption should now be done on the PlayStation Store website. These are measures to increase security, given Sony had considered closing the stores on both platforms due to commerce support challenges, but after fan request they left them open. Insomniac seems to have started motion capture work for their upcoming Marvel Spider-Man 2. Tony Todd teased his mocap work on Monday via Twitter. The horror actor was confirmed to be taking the role of Venom after the game was announced last year. And recently a lead animator at Insomniac also teased Wolverine mocap will be starting soon, so the guys over there have their hands full with these upcoming games. Switching superhero games, WB Montreal showed over 10 minutes of gameplay for Gotham Knights featuring the team-up of Nightwing and Red Hood. They showed the combat for these two heroes, traversal around Gotham City, RPG aspects with different gear providing different stats, and the type of missions you will be able to take to uncover the Court of Owls. The game is still gonna be a 2-player co-op despite rumors that indicated it could be a 4-player, which turned out to be a mistake in the PlayStation Store listing. WB is however ditching both last-gen versions, PS4 and Xbox One, in an attempt to deliver the best experience to players. They also announced pre-order details, which I cover in a separate video here on the channel. EA has teased its upcoming projects to investors in its latest earnings report. The company is expecting to launch F1 22 in the first quarter of this fiscal year, followed by the usual Madden and the last game with the FIFA branding in Q2, a new Need for Speed and NHL in Q3, and in Q4 ending March 2023 we have PGA Tour and a couple of mystery games. One of them is a major IP, the other a partner title, a sports title, and a remake, all of which have not yet been publicly disclosed. You may think the remake refers to Dead Space, but that was already announced, so there's no reason to keep it in secrecy. Which EA game would you like to see a remake? Sound off in the comments below. Speaking of EA games, it seemed for a moment like the next Mass Effect game could see the return of Commander Shepard due to an N7 lithograph up for sale at the BioWare store. The description for the product read, "While Shepard and the survivors are left to pick up the pieces, fans are left wondering what's next." Project director Michael Gamble jumped on Twitter to shut down the speculation, replying to fans that the product description was written by people who run the store and are not familiar with the game. But is it really a simple mistake? We'll have to wait and see. Just like we'll have to wait on any possible Ghostwire Tokyo DLC, as teased by director Kenji Kimura in an interview with IGN. He said he would love to expand the game, but he recognizes it's still too early. But once things calm down, he has ideas for DLC and sequel he would like to explore, but nothing has been decided yet. It will be interesting to see if any of that content makes it to PS5, given that Tango Gameworks is a Bethesda studio now part of Microsoft. I guess there's a chance any DLC could release a few months after the game has debuted on Xbox, but really doubt a sequel would make it. We end this episode with great news for trophy hunters, as Green Lava Studios have announced the release date for the third game in the MCU. Yeah, the Mayo cinematic universe. The clicker game is expected to give you more facts about the Mayo yard with identity issues. I'm pretty sure that another easy platinum trophy this May 17. It also marks the debut of the series on PS5, so it could be 2 platinum trophies instead of 1. And there you go, that's all the time we have for this episode of PlayStation News. Let us know what you think about any of these stories in the comments below, like or dislike to share your feedback, check out other videos you may enjoy while you're here, and consider subscribing for more PlayStation content. Thank you so much for watching, my name is Joseph, this is Hype for Games, and let's get hype!